Hello, and thank you for joining us on the first edition of Journalist Hangout this week. I'm Ayodele Osinbajo, your regular host on the show. Today on the program, ahead of Independence Day celebration, Gowon, Osinbajo bring message of hope, say Nigeria will overcome challenges. Federal government arraigns Omoyele Sowore on a 7-count charge of fraud, treasonable felony, and later on the show, Siasia's mother regains freedom from kidnappers, then 77 days after. I'll be hanging out with Janet Afolabi Mba and Wale Adeweye. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us once again. As postulated in Chinua Achebe's celebrated and popular collection of essay, Hope and Impediment, Nigeria's journey to nationhood has been fraught with prospects and challenges. As the country's 59th independence beckon, economic instability, acute corruption, terrorism, kidnapping, and banditry appear to overshadow any plan for elaborate celebration. But at Independence Day, interdenominational service, church service held at the National Christian Center in Abuja, former head of state, retired General Yakubu Gowon, and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo gave message of hope to Nigerians. They say Nigeria will overcome its challenges and fulfill its destiny by becoming a great country. Let's hear from General Gowon and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo.
We can come together in unity of faith, love, and prayer to salvage our nation from its woes. I believe that Nigeria is specially favored by the Almighty, and I'm confident that the God who saved and preserved Nigeria in the past will yet do it again and again.
God has also promised us a new Nigeria, a peaceful Nigeria, a prosperous Nigeria, a Nigeria where justice and equity and fairness shall prevail, a united Nigeria, where the different tribes and tongues are not wedges of separation, but the joyful textures of our togetherness. God is ready to fulfill his promise, and that we will enter the promised land. The new Nigeria is here, and each and every one of us, our families and our friends, all of us will eat the pleasant fruits of this new land.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo there, and is talking about a new Nigeria. As part of our countdown to the Independence Day package, I had to go to the streets. I had to talk to ordinary Nigerians, and the optimism Yakubu Gowon is sharing and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Nigerians are kind of disconnected because they can't see it physically. It is not real. And talking about a new Nigerian for them is like, you know, giving them, raising their hope over and over again. 51 years down the line, what do you make of this? 59 years.
Well, Nigeria is almost 60 years. And you can compare that with the age of a man that is almost 60. When you are 60, you start counting down because you think of getting too old and getting out of the world. Well, the two men are great men. One led us through the Civil War. The second one is the current vice president of this country. They are expected to inspire us. And we expect those messages to resonate among Nigerians because of our level of spirituality. Nigerians want to listen to inspiration, you know, about God and all that. But the question we should ask ourselves, what have we done with the opportunities given to us by God? Because God is not going to run this country. He will give you the free will to do whatever you like. So I think we are not showing the signs that, you know, there is hope in the country. It's a country that people celebrate yesterday. Yesterday is always better than today. If you want to know how great Nigeria is, just go back to your primary school or secondary school some 30 years or 40 years ago and compare the infrastructure there with what you have today. Every time we talk about how great Lagos was or Ibadan, some 30, 40, 50 years ago, instead of us talking about, how greater today is compared with yesteryear. So we have a lot of challenges. In spite of the fact that these leaders, are trying to inspire us, we must also admit the reality that there are basic challenges, basic hurdles. We have problem of insecurity, we have problem of food, problem of livelihood, we have problem of, lack of essentials of life, feeding, shelter, accommodation, basic things that every great nation should be proud of. So for me, we agree with what they are saying, but then the reality is that many Nigerians have almost become hopeless in the face of monumental challenges, economic and political challenges that continue to confront and afflict Nigerians.
Janet, people, they've been talking about visionary leadership. And when you look at, the founding fathers of some other advanced countries and they've projected in the future, the policies, the foundation they were laying, it wasn't for their own generation. It was for generation to come. And when you start saying facilities they are using today, and like you go to a train station and you discover that there's one particular one, and I discovered that it was commissioned 1897. That means that person saw into like 100 years after that there will be population density around the country and my people will be able to enjoy this facility. But what we've had from 1960 to this time, it's not even sustainable. Our growth is even more than the infrastructure we have on ground. We can't even manage it.
We're talking about some leaders who meant well for their countries. We're talking about Nkrumah of Ghana. Those were people who really meant well for their countries. You're talking about Mandela. Mandela went to jail to make sure that his country was freed from the hands of apartheid. And in Nigeria, you're talking about the Awolowos who brought about free education in Nigeria, and that was a legacy that he left that can never, ever be out of fashion. You're talking about Zik, all those founding fathers who came together to fight for independence. If they look at the way Nigeria is today, I'm sure it would be far from what they had in mind before they fought for the independence. The two leaders who have spoken from what we have heard, Gowon was former head of state. He's talking about Nigeria from his own eyes when he was the head of state. That was a time we had oil boom, and Gowon made a statement that we had so much money that the problem is how to spend it. That was when there was increase in salary and all. Nigeria has so much. But what did we do with the boom until the doom began to set in? And Osinbajo, who also spoke from the eyes of a new leader who is presently in government. And he went spiritual to say that Nigeria is going to experience a new dawn. But I don't know if what they quoted him as saying is right or wrong, but I want to say it, that he said the protection over the enemies of this country has been removed. I think that is more spiritual than saying what is facts, and evidence. So he's talking from the spiritual angle. Gowon is talking perhaps from the psychological angle of giving Nigerians hope that Nigeria is a favored country, there's no doubt about that. This country is meant to be great. Everybody is supposed to reap or eat out of the fruits of this country because it can go round. However, the challenges that we face that should have united us are dividing us. The religion is dividing us, ethnicity is dividing us, corruption is dividing us, inequality is dividing us, and not sharing the wealth equally to those who are the wealth is supposed to go to. The marginalization. Every section believes or claims or allege that it is marginalized. There is no section in this country or no tribe in this country that will come out boldly to tell you that we are okay. Even up north, that people are alleging, power is always going to the north. That is where you have poverty in its naked state. I have lived in some cities of the north, even as a young girl. I've lived in Kano, and as journalist, I have gone to all the states in the north, and I see stark poverty amongst these people. But their leaders may be rich, but these people are poor. So poverty cuts across tribe, religion, and ethnic ethnicity. It does not favor one side against the other. But at the top, that's where you have the problem of looting, the problem of corruption, the problem of who wants to have more, the problem of infighting to acquire more than the others.
In spite of the boom, Wale, in spite of the boom we experienced, in spite of the discovery of oil, and from 1960 till now, we've still not been able to solve the Hydra-headed electricity problem. 59 years. As in, it's not a record that in 1960 that the entire country had lights, had constant power supply. So we've been grappling with this instability in terms of power since 1960. This is 59 years down the line. We have people, professors, we've had engineers, you know, name it, across the world. We've not been able to find lasting solution to our power problem.
Because it's very simple. We apply the same solution over the years to a problem that is taking new dimensions. If you look at the problem of the country, it's both economic and political. The problem of electricity will not be solved as long as Nigeria runs an over-centralized system. As long as we run a garrison state. You cannot have a command economy in a plural and democratic society and expect things to work. As we speak today, the economy, when we are talking about provision of electricity, you see the prerequisite of the federal government. Whereas exclusive, even though some states have made attempts to generate electricity on their own, the federal government still comes with one difficulty to make it very difficult for them.
National grid.
Yes, you can imagine what Crossover was saying last week, that they want to produce electricity for their own people. But when it comes to distribution and transmission, the federal government still has to wield some powers. So we need to decentralize, the structure of the country and allow some levels of autonomy. Look at when we are talking about the growth of Nigeria, development. We always make reference to the 50s and to the early 60s, when Nigerians had some level of autonomy. In the 50s and up to the early 60s, each region had its own constitution. Each region had had to manage its own economy. In fact, at that time, Western region had, if you want to, there was an envoy that was represented in Western region in London. The same thing with Eastern region, the same thing with Northern region. Look at the great institutions like UNN, like IFE, like ABU. No government has been able to build any institution that surpassed this great institution. Look at Liberty Stadium. Since 1959, we have not been able to build another Liberty Stadium. Even when you go to some parts of Western region, you discover that the roads that were constructed in the 70s are far, far better than the ones being built in modern times. So the fact of the matter is that when Nigeria had a restructured, a kind of, regional autonomy, development was competitive. There was mutual competition. People were able to develop. There were opportunities. But now that everything is about the federal government, it stifles potentials. It makes it very difficult for people to realize, their potential. Opportunities are also, they are also sealed up by the federal government. So I think when we are talking about making progress.
Let me take my first caller. Okpara is calling us from Lagos. Thank you for joining us, Okpara.
Yes, Ayo, good evening.
Good evening.
And good evening to the panelists here.
All right.
Ayo, we thank God for 59 years. All we have to thank God for is that we have our life. That if by any means these people have a way to take away our life, they were taking it. I'm telling the truth. That's what we can celebrate from God, for our nation, that God is still giving us our life. But based on other things, nothing at all. Gowon is saying, and Vice President Osinbajo is saying, they have everything complete for them. They don't lack anything. The average Nigerian man is suffering. Just as my elder brother here has said that our yesterday is better than today. Our today is supposed to be better than yesterday, but it's not the star. So please, 59 years of Nigeria, and somebody is going older and he cannot perform.
Thank you, Okpara, for your contribution. I wanted to ask, when we had this, the likes of Power and Arrow actually raised the motion for independence in 1952 or thereabouts, when they were doing that thing and all our leaders, the Awolows, the Abat Macaulays came together, do you think we're matured at that time to have gotten this independence? Perhaps some people were saying that if the colonial masters had developed Nigeria a little, like the way they did to South Africa, they did for South Africa, that this would have been better. That look at the way we are now. We are in the middle of nothing.
I think we were not immature to have gotten independence in 1960. Look at the time that Nigeria, the North and South were amalgamated, 1914. And look at the time that we got independence. So we were matured enough to be independent. Because when you are independent, whether financial or otherwise, it's a sign of well-being. Even for an individual, when you are financially independent, it's a state of well-being. So when we were independent as a nation, it should have been a sign of well-being. However, so many things came in. That was when ethnicity, which was the major problem, and it was not even corruption that was the problem at that time. It was tribalism that was the problem of immediately after independence.
It's still the problem now.
It's still a problem though. But so many things have now taken over from tribalism. But tribalism is the seed, is the seed that was sown since that independence. And that tribalism went into the military and did not allow the civilians who got this independence to run the government as civilians and bring about the democracy. If we had been practicing democracy since 1960, we would have gotten far, far ahead, more than where we are today. But the military came in and took over. There were killings in the north, there were killings in the south, and then there was a civil war, and it ended in 1970. The war began in 67 and ended in 1970. 1967, that was just 7 years after independence, we went to war. So how could we have even grown? We were still managing. In fact, at that time, we were still being breastfed. If you want to look at it and the life of a nation, even a 7-year-old child is still a toddler, not to talk of a 7-year-old country. And then we went to war. 60 years is nothing in the life of a country, Ayo, because a country is going to be older than every other person. In the life of
Okay, let me take this call. Rahim is calling us from Osun State. Thank you for joining us, Rahim.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much.
All right, go ahead.
Please, what I want you people to take into cognizance is that the population, Nigeria was 43 million when we got independence. Britain was 50-something million. Even though if the population group in Britain is at that of Nigeria, they would not be able to cope. They would not be able to cope. The past government, they have tried. How can a country grow from 43 million in 59 years? It has skyrocketed to 200 million. If Britain has grown his population to 200 and above, he will not be able to cope. Britain will not be able to cope. As government, they have tried. They said we have job opportunities abroad. Look at their population. British population from 50-something up to now is about 60-something. Nigeria own has skyrocketed to 200 million. How will they be able to cope? We should control the population, and then they will be able to do something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rahim. That's a very, very valid point. He was talking about our population.
But Ayo, you see, you cannot compare Nigeria and Britain because we don't have the same cultural environment. In Nigeria, as a Muslim, you can marry 4 wives. And as if you have 4 wives, the 4 wives have four children. We don't have it, but we do not have it.
22, 23 children.
We do not have it, but the culture permits it. But during Babangida's regime, he introduced family planning, that you should limit childbearing to 4 per family. So if you have 4 wives, how do you distribute it? One from each wife? You know, so he was attacked. That not physically, that verbal people condemn him, that no family planning, we don't need family planning. But Ayo, you see now, that's what I'm saying. My point now is, you don't need a Babangida to tell you to limit the number of children you have. The economic situation on ground will force you, not even beg you, will force you to limit the number of children you have and train them. You don't need too many children. Maximum of 3 is okay, or 2 or 3. You don't, you know, it's this country that when you're looking for a male child, people go out of their way to be looking, and they may still have all the female children. It's also one of the reasons. But whether a boy or a girl, a child is a child. A female child even comes out sometimes better than the male child that you think that is coming to...
A discussion for another day.
Feminist.
Wale, in terms of our population growth, Raheem cited something very instructive, because I've taken time to study the United Kingdom has the population too in the last 59 years. When you look at it, the growth rate, they just recorded 5%, 6%
per year.
It's overing. But number one, we can't control us. We are moving. If the last time we had a population census was 2006, and I can tell you the facts on ground, if we are not more than 200 million right now.
Yeah, the aspect of population is there, but there are limiting factors like culture, religion, you know, social factors, you know, that make it very difficult for us to control our population. But we should also not shy from the fact that there are striking examples of countries with very huge population, like India, you know, like Pakistan, like Indonesia, China, and they have been able to build their own economy to a level that can address the population growth. So why the population?
Okay, let me quickly take. Farouk is calling us from Kaduna State. Farouk, thank you for hanging out with us. Hello, Farouk. Is Farouk still there? Okay, Wale.
So why there is a problem of, you know, addressing population growth, the fundamental problem, you know, is poor leadership. You know, we have not been able to build our economy to a level that can meet, you know, the kind of population that we have in the country. And today you have millions of children that are hopeless, no access to education, no access to food. And these are breeding grounds, you know, for terrorism, for violence, you know, for insecurity, for banditry. So I think, you know, I agree that we have to address the problem of population, but more importantly is the question of building an industrial economy, an economy that is driven by production instead of consumption, so that we can meet, you know, our expectations as, you know, the giant of Africa that used to be our appellation maybe some 50 years ago.
Let's talk about unemployment. Right now, somebody told me today that now that some of these bandits, that some of these kidnap cases that they are not reported, that some people even collect 1,000.
That is true.
Yeah, they collect 1,000, and some people, when you can't pay the ransom, they sell them as slaves out of Nigeria. That is what we're just experiencing today. You can see the level of
desperation
of poverty. And if you are grappling with, according to the National Bureau of Statistics, the last figure, 23% unemployment rates.
Ayo, there's no doubt that the employment rate is high, because every year graduates are coming out of the universities and there are no jobs. Times have gone.
Janet, let's quickly, Ade is calling us from London.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us, Ade.
You are welcome. My view about this discussion is that I remember last year on one of your programs, Fireworks, a man from the Kaduna was speaking. He said he had 48 children, that he's still going to marry more. His uncle is going to marry more. Then all these children, who is going to cater for them? Is it this same oil from Niger Delta that we are relying on that will cater for them? So our problem is population. That's nothing else. You can't compare us with India or China or wherever. These are where law works. You know what is in Nigeria? Nigeria, I describe Nigeria as a pay-as-you-go. You see? Because if you don't have money, your life is nothing. If you have money, you have security around you to pass through any dangerous way. So the serious issue, that's why Emir spoke last time, that they should limit their wives. If organizer Okada rider in Kano, we have 4 wives. I mean, this is serious. So they should do something about population. That is the issue. In Britain here, David Cameron, former Prime Minister, passed a law, sometimes about 3-4 years ago, that if you have more than 2 children, you're on your own, you cater for them.
Thank you for your contribution, Ade, all the way from the United Kingdom. Janet.
Okay, we're talking about unemployment. It still leads to the issue of power. A lot of people who were either welders or hairdressers, because of lack of constant power, they now take to other means of livelihood. Some of them abandon even the Okada and take to kidnapping. There was a story published yesterday that a baby factory was discovered somewhere in Lagos, and they are selling, yes, selling male child for 500,000 and selling female child for 300,000. For God's sake, these are human beings. And then you push these strange children to different homes, and the home is the basic root of the society. You put strange children, they begin to misbehave. You hear that a father impregnates a child. How can a father impregnate his own blood child? Maybe these are some of the strange children that were brought in from nowhere, and they think the man thinks it's his daughter, or may not even know that the wife may have gone to buy. So these are some of the problems we have in this country.
On a final note now, as this is another phase, we're going to be 60 next year. The bright side of it.
Well, the bright side is that we have opportunity to change this country for the better. We have the opportunities are there in terms of access to information. You know, over 70 million people now, you know, on social media. Then we have a vibrant youth population, you know, and then we are running a democratic government where people have the right to go and vote and change their leaders. So we need to, you know, to be determined to say that, look, enough is enough. We want to produce leaders that have inspiration, that have vision, you know, to change this country for the better. We have to use our votes, you know, to determine the future of this country, and not to sell our votes to those that will buy our votes, and at the end of the day, they will get to power to destroy our future. The choice is ours.
Okay, by tomorrow, we're still going to continue this topic, and that's the Independence Day special edition of Journalist Hangout, and we're going to be looking at Nigeria at 59. The messenger is going to be in this house, be in the house, is already on ground. Babajide Kolade Otitoju will be joining us on that 59th edition of anniversary of Nigeria. Still to come, federal government arraigned Omoyele Sowore on 7-count charge of fraud and treasonable felony. Stay with us. It's your multiple award-winning program, Journalist Hangouts. It's not yet freedom for the publisher of Sahara Reporters and convener of the Revolution Now movement, Omoyele Sowore. A week after a court ordered for his release, the federal government, through the Department of State Security, DSS, has arraigned Sowore in another court. This time, the government leveled a 7-count charge bordering on alleged conspiracy to commit treason, money laundering, cyber stalking against him at the Federal High Court, Abuja. Though Sowore pleaded not guilty to the offences, the court ordered that he be remanded in DSS custody. Let's hear from Sowore when he appeared in court today. We actually took the shots.
I've been kept in Comunicado for almost 60 days now. Okay. And you can see them dragging. This is a lawless country. That's why Nigeria must fight for its soul and ensure that the revolution that gives our people a chance to have a country of their own. Revolution! Now! Revolution! Now! Revolution!
As I did last week, it was granted bail. Femi Falana took steps to perfect his bail, and it was this back and forth between Femi Falana and the DSS, while Femi Falana said he has perfected the condition that's for his release. The DSS are saying they are yet to be served, as at that time.
Yeah.
The spokesman said they are yet to be served this order for bail. And the man said Femi Falana, as a senior lawyer, should know the process and everything, that immediately they perfect the process, that no problem. Well, till what we're saying this morning, that they were actually hatching the plan to rearrange Omoyele Sowore. What do you make of this?
I think it's a very unfortunate thing, very unfortunate development. And I don't understand why the government makes things very difficult for itself. Because if you file a charge of treason against an individual. Treason is a capital offense that somebody wants to overthrow the government. A country where you have about 200 million people. A country that has 36 states, where there are about 300,000 soldiers. Who are his collaborators? Where are the brigade commanders? Where are the naval forces? The air force, the ammunition? Is it his pen that wanted to use to overthrow the government? So there is a level to which you drag this kind of case and it becomes ridiculous. And people begin to laugh at us all over the world. Showore is not strange to battles like this. If you know his history from the, from the night, I was in the Guardian, when he started this his campaign about a better society. And I think for me, what I see is a deliberate attempt to ensure that they silence him. Probably it has to do more with Sahara Reporters, which has done a lot in exposing the misconduct of people in power. It has exposed corruption. It has exposed misgovernance in ways, unimaginable ways, unimaginable manners, that continue to shock a lot of people. Sahara Reporters have about 25 million subscribers all over the world. So I think for a government that does not believe in free speech, Sahara Reporters seems to have become a threat to those in power. So I see a conspiracy of various forces that have ganged up, irrespective of political parties or political interests, to ensure that they want to silence Showore for once. They are talking about using the word revolution. We use revolution all the time. There's a revolution in science, there's a revolution in art, there's a revolution in the media. As student union activists, we use revolution almost every day. In fact, when the APC was campaigning in 2014, 2015, the word revolution was used constantly and continuously. So I'm really appalled that the government is trying to use a stealth armor to kill, to kill an ant. I think this is unnecessary. It's unnecessary drama. But I believe at the end of the day, the rule of law will triumph. And those that want to scuttle democracy, to take us back to the dark years of tyranny, will be put to shame.
But looking at this, okay, from this new 7-count charge, I understand that the Showore's account, $16,000. Somebody that is a publisher, he runs Sahara Reporters. He has staff. I've been to his office in Manhattan, in New York. I've been to his office. I don't know what he does. But the bottom line of what we're talking about now is that cyber stalking, the first time, they said it was abusing the president. And I watched an interview by the Attorney General of the Federation on BBC, and I was taken aback.
Ayo, I think the government is in order by arraigning him under Section 156 of the Criminal Code. He's being charged for treasonable felony, meaning that he has not committed treason. He has not overthrown the government. But treasonable felony is the intention. It's talking about the intention. And when you are charged with intention, whether you have successfully carried it out or not, is not an excuse and it is not a defense. From the videos of Showore, he was not talking about agricultural revolution. He was not talking about educational or electrical revolution. He was talking about changing the government and boasting that this time tomorrow DSS will be no more. He was talking about a movement to change the government, and I think he should be arraigned. The government has done well in arraigning him. They should level all the charges against him.
He was granted bail.
He was granted, of
last
course.
Week Tuesday.
Yes.
Did the government obey that?
The court order.
The court order.
That should be released.
Given by Justice Tao.
The government should have obeyed the court order. The court ordered his release.
Yes.
Because lawyers are coming out to say that there is no offense that is not bailable. But before now, a lot of Nigerians, there was this general belief that there are certain offenses that are not bailable.
It's the prerogative of the judge.
No. Wait, let me explain to you. It's not even the prerogative of the judge alone. It is in that section 161. Subsection 1 and 2, that if the case is taken to court, it is only the judge of a high court that can grant bail to such a person, whether more. No, wait.
He was granted bail.
No,
And he was granted bail.
Finish.
Okay.
that can grant bail on certain conditions. One of the conditions is that maybe he's very ill, like the time of Zakzaki, that they allowed him to go to India and Ibongo did. Or the judge will now look at the case, the facts of the matter, and then see the facts of the matter, and then see. Wait, but that gives the judge, that is where the thing is a bit opaque. It is no longer transparent. It is now the judge that will decide and say this can go on bail or not bail. But you have to explain it to the end, because not everybody may know.
It's still at the mercy of the judge.
Yeah. He was not granted that bail. So I feel at the time that he was granted the bail, he should have been allowed to go, then be arraigned, just like they've arraigned him now. But all those investigations, the purpose for the detention in the first place was for the DSS to go get the papers
for 45 days to investigate.
Yes, to get all the papers.
Yes,
60 days now.
Yes, and we are still waiting for the investigation. We are still waiting for the collaborators. Only him, planning revolution to take over the government.
Somebody else, we want Bakari. There is another person.
People, two civilians planning to take over the country.
How? We can't sit down here and no. I disagree with you. When something happens, you look at it.
You have to help the government.
I'm not here to help the government.
To be able to put things in proper perspective.
When you were talking, I did not interrupt. Allow me to finish.
Land.
I want to land not on a wrong tarmac anyway. Okay, so let the law take its course. We are looking at it from the eyes of the law. Law is about justice and evidence. Law is about facts. So what are the facts that the DSS has? It is now that they will present it. What does the law on treasonable felony say? It is now that the law will take its course. Whether the man will go for life imprisonment or not. And it may not even be life imprisonment, depending on who is judging. But I feel that the government is in order.
Okay, Wale, now, the first order, the DSS sought for 90 days.
Yes.
Taiwo gave them 45 days.
Yes.
And after the 45 days, the same Taiwo is now saying, the person that reminded him, in prison is now saying, okay, he can go home so that he will start his trial proper. But the court, he should submit his international passport to the courts in the next 48 hours. Now he has been rearranged. And when I looked at the 7-count charge, and I looked at it, it's almost like, what similar to the reason why he was arraigned the first time. But what we're saying here now is that the rule of law in this country, he has been released on. He was released on Tuesday.
He was released on Tuesday.
And there are some people, they will release them. When they release them at the ports, when they release them, the court will release them. Maybe they will just arrest them again. On fresh count charge. But the federal government did not do this. The DSS did not do this.
He was kept in detention, contrary to the order of the Federal High Court that he should be released and that his passport should be deposited. So we are all waiting that he will be released, and then even if we want to charge him from treason, that he should be coming from wherever he stays to attend, to the charges in court.
Okay, let me take this call. Godwin is calling us from Taraba State.
Yeah, hello. Good evening, Ayo.
Good evening. Go ahead with your contribution, Bobby.
Yeah. Let me just start from your first topic. Please, let's just get this thing. Let's just get this thing straight, Ayo. The rhetoric of Nigeria during independence is always Nigeria will be better. Let me stay out of that. Now let's get back to the Showore case. Ayo, you and I know that this government does not respect the rule of law. They don't respect human feelings. I'm sorry to get into this straight up. I don't know if Ms. Mba is actually a lawyer or not. She's a journalist. Everybody knows that this government does not respect anybody. Look, the same day that the court actually ordered that the DSS should release Showore, it was the same day that Buhari was at the United Nations telling the world that his government is...
Okay. Well, the bottom line is that Bobby is saying that, look, the government, Janet, you want to react to that?
I said the government should have released him at the point that the court had granted bail. That was what I said. Okay. But that the government is in order to arraign him.
Okay.
That's what I said.
We are arraigning him again now.
Of course, if you release him on bail, are you saying he should go home and sleep? You have to arraign him. The court has said release him on bail. Bail is not the end of the matter. He will still come and face the charges.
Trial.
Yes. So the government should have allowed him that bail. He will go. He will have shorties, of course, and then they will arraign him like they've done today.
At the end of the day, I think Showore is more popular.
Yeah,
Showore,
he is.
6 months ago, when he ran for presidential election, in the entire country, Showore recorded 33,000 votes. Right now, Showore is everywhere.
Yeah. Those who had planned treason in this country, we know what happened. They were taken to court. We saw the evidence in the military era, you know, and those that were charged on Trump-up charges, people like the former head of state, Obasanjo, Kunle Ajibade, Colonel Aja, many of them, we saw what happened at the end of the day. And even the case of Awolowo, that was also charged for treasonable felony with about 29 people, we know how it ended. So we are used to Trump-up charges, red herring, people coming up with all sorts of charges that cannot be that are not defensible. In this case, there's a federal high court order that has said that it should be released. And it's unfortunate that people are now using treason as just a personal weapon to fight, you know, passive enemies. Look at Jalingo. Jalingo is being kept in Cross River on the same charge.
Is in Cross River. Ben Ayade accused Agba Jalingo of trying to remove him as the governor of Cross River State.
Jalingo had wanted to remove the governor of Cross River State in another coup.
You know Agba Jalingo?
Yes,
it's ridiculous.
He raised a point that I need to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trump-up charges, they never came out to say revolution. Two of my colleagues, one is late now, Ben Charles Obi and George Mba, we worked closely in Tel magazine, and when we founded Insider magazine, we were all co-founders. Yeah. They did not ever come out one day to say they wanted to.
No, they accused them what they wrote.
I'm also journalist. That's what I want to tell you.
Let me put the
record straight. And if George Mba is listening, I wish he would call in. George did not write the story that sent him to jail.
Somebody wrote it.
Somebody wrote a story in Tel, and you're listening. And they sent a soldier to Tel magazine at that time that go and get the writer of this story. So unfortunately, it was George they met when he was descending the staircase, and they asked George about the writer. George said the guy was not around. So they told George, they tricked George that they wanted to eat, that could George take them to a nearby restaurant. Innocently, George took them there. So at the restaurant, George was still talking with them that the writer may still come, you know. Then the major, it was a major, went out. Then there was no GSM. Maybe that they are walkie-talkie. He made a call, came inside and told George that he was under arrest. So George thought he was like he was dreaming. He said, yes, under the military. From that place, they took George for 3 years in prison. George was chained down like this. If you look at George Mba's fingers, they are like that of lepers. All his nails have gone because he was like this on the ground. The soldiers who were coming to give them food, whatever they came, would not talk to you. No answer.
Solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement. That even Ben Charles, when he came out, he almost had this mental problem. He was always shaking his head like that. Ben was no longer himself. So, and these were two, at least I worked closely with them. They did not say revolution. They did not write the stories. No. Ben was, because he was the editor of Classic. Yes.
Kunle Ajibade was...
For Kunle, I don't know about
Kunle Ajibade was charged for treason, you know, based on stories written in the news. It is similar to what we are saying now. That somebody has used the word revolution, and he has used the word to change a government. And these were cliches that were used in 2015 during the campaign. In fact, the slogan of the APC was change, that the government was to be changed. Showore contested the election. The purpose of contesting the election is to change the government. There's nothing, there's no big deal about that. And even when you are talking about revolution, that we want a revolution in the country, it's a slogan, it's a democratic slogan.
Dari is calling us from Kaduna State.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, I just hope that the present-day government is not setting a bad precedent where orders and rules are not obeyed. I'm not in support of any individual trying to cause chaos in the country, but there is law in the land. So I just want to enjoin the judiciary to please do the needful. Nobody is above the law. If court says Showore should be released, if granted bail, he should be granted bail. And if there is any other ground that the government wants to use against him, why not? But court said granting bail. So what we had is the condition was met, but he was not released. This is a very bad precedent.
Thank you, Dari.
That is the point. The court has granted him bail, and for not releasing him, they will now come in with fresh charges. Shows that is, it is beyond our expectation. I mean, it's beyond what we are looking out for. There is a conspiracy, a conscious one, to ensure that the girls want to get at him at all costs, and it's not going to help us. It's not going to help the image of the country. It's not going to help, the democratic sustainability. It's not going to help, our struggle to have a better country that we can live for our children. Just because somebody has used the word revolution. In fact, in class in those days, it was a term we used to use every day. If you see demonstrations we had during June 12, people flagged us revolution, change the government, and we are not killed. We are not murdered. So in a democratic government, people should have minimum right to express themselves, even up to the extent of saying that they want a change of government. It's guaranteed by the Nigerian Constitution.
Some people are even saying that this government even, rode on the back of the change mantra, and Sahara Reporters was even actively involved in changing from Goodluck Ebele Jonathan to Muhammadu Buhari. So he's now criticizing the same government he helped to usher in, and it seems that the government is not going to take it easy the way Goodluck Ebele Jonathan took his own.
Everybody reacts differently. If Jonathan had taken it, accepted it as a way of life, and didn't see it as revolution, and didn't interpret it as that kind of revolution, that's a Jonathan. But this government has decided to look at this revolution the way Sowore has come out to talk about it. The videos are there. If Sowore were just saying we need a revolution, why would people say we need a revolution in this country? And then you were threatening, and then you gather people, and then you were boasting that there will be no DSS the following day. Who will fold his arms and wait and look and watch you? So the fact that you joined the former government to come into new government, joined the APC to come into power and take over from the incumbent, does that now give you the liberty, the right to now want to overthrow? Is that now a justification for?
She's doing a better job than Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Alhaji Lai Mohammed is going to call you to compensate.
I am objective. I'm just being objective. That's just it.
Well, all right. Freedom at last will surely be the new song in the home of the former Nigerian soccer star, that's Samson Siasia. His aged mother, 76-year-old Beauty Ogere, finally regained freedom from kidnappers on Sunday, 77 days after she was abducted by gunmen at her Odoni country home in Sagbama local government area of Bayelsa State on the 15th of July. That was the second time in 4 years that she would be kidnapped, and we hope there won't be a third time again. Let's share the story with you as captured by our super duper correspondent Ovi Timmy George.
It is typical of community folks to gather over some drinks at the break of cheering news. On this day, some members of the Siasia family and their kinsmen are celebrating the release of Madam Beauty Ogere Siasia, abducted by gunmen on the 15th of July. The 76-year-old mother of former player and coach of the Super Eagles, Samson Siasia, was released alongside a 17-year-old girl and a man who was held by the kidnappers after an initial attempt to negotiate their release.
At times they will bring gari and beans, pulo gari and soup gari, yellow soup, but it's not well. Yellow soup with the gari again, we go carry gari, they swallow gari again. Morning, evening, at times afternoon, they will come. They will beat me, tie me up, so that I cannot go and do anything with them. Because they are guiding me with at least 4 people now they guide me. Mosquito, everything, sunfly, everything now they bite me.
They entertain us with Montina. They feed us well. They buy Indomie. Things, a lot of things for us, tablets.
Different strokes for different folks, but Madam Siasia seemed to have found favor in the sight of her abductors.
Then they take care of me.
the sickness that they buy the tablet itself. Sometimes food do not they. Some themselves they drink gari, me say they drink gari. They go man they cook the soup, they cook soup, do gari, all of the soup. Now so they do tea, they come. The day yesterday, say they talk say they are don't take for day again. Say my wahala say they tire them, make it go.
Mama, they have kidnapped you 2 times. Why?
I don't know for reason, no. I don't know for reason, no. Only God know. I don't know.
In Jesus' name, they will not kidnap you again.
Amen. Because of that Samson. Because of that Samson. Because of that Samson. Say my picking the Molonia. That's what they worry me like that, though.
The Bayelsa State Commissioner of Police, Uche Anozia, was at the home of the Siasias.
Mama, how are you? You're welcome.
We are calling on members of the public, each community, to partner with us to ensure that we fight crime in their various communities.
Carlos. I don't have any other adjective to describe this old woman spending 77 days.
76-year-old woman spending 77 days. Were they counting the days?
At the point in time, they sent 1.5 million. Those ones said
it's a height of humanity to man.
To an old woman.
How did you get to this
age? How did you get here? The woman, where it got me, the woman raised her eyes to the skies and water started dripping. And she said, now only God knows. Even without saying anything, cursing those people, what she did, that action alone is enough. It's enough cause for those people. The tears of an old woman. Look at the gray hair. She couldn't even stand. And you kept her for 12 solid weeks. And this is the second time. And you are saying that because she's the mother of a millionaire, must she now come and face
I read the report,
consequences?
It doesn't have money.
She's now facing consequences for atrocities she did not even commit. Do they know how Siasia struggled to become a millionaire? Somebody who has played 50 times.
Does he even have the money?
Now, somebody who is looking for $100 million to pay for his appeal at the Court of Arbitration for Sports, so that his case will even be
his life ban.
His life ban. So the guy is even under
livelihood.
Financial pressure, emotional pressure. He does not even have that kind of money. Take $100,000 to Naira, Ayo. That's about 36 or 37 million. And then you are asking for this one. He does not even have.
There's no justification for this grievous crime against humanity. Whether it is poverty, whether it's anything, there is just no justification. Because CSI is supposed to be a role model for any decent society, that the role he has played, in promoting the image of this country. And for people to go after his mother the first time and then the second time. And something, shocked me in that video. The woman is overwhelmed by fear. She's even trying to, what you call Stockholm Syndrome, a situation where you are compared to love your abductor because you fear that they might come back to take you again. Now, who are these people that perpetrated this crime? Our tears talking to God is fine, it's okay, but we want to know who are these people. The police, she was kept somewhere for 77 days. Who are these people? Can we get their fingerprints? They were communicating with the police or community security officials. Who are the people that carry out this crime? Will this thing just be swept under the carpet again? And then all we want to hear is that community should collaborate with police. Who are the people that committed this crime? There must be some people who know them. It will be interesting for Nigeria, for the sake of humanity, for the police to get to the root of the matter, to let us know the men that carry out this crime.
Janet?
It's so unfortunate that they go after this old woman first time, second time, but my happiness is that she came out alive. Some go once and they never return. So maybe they have to celebrate her birthday, they are rejoicing, just look for her and celebrate her well. because she has gone through a lot.
I want to thank you. Wale Adeoye, thank you for your contribution. And Janet Mba-Afolabi, thank you so much. And I invite people tomorrow to watch our Independence Special edition of Journalist Hangouts. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode. That's a special episode of the program. Also watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're also on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Osinbajo. Bye for now and God bless Nigeria.